What do CEOs need to know about sales these days? A lot. Outdated sales strategies and tactics plague most companies today. Listen to what innovative CEOs and experts have to say about how to change all that with Sales Talk for CEOs. Welcome to Sales Talk for CEOs. I am excited to have a good friend of mine on the show today because she does amazing things for her clients, and I want you to learn about it. I know that every CEO out there wishes their salespeople had more conversations per day with people who can buy, right? I mean, that's what we all want. But every company I talk to is stumbling and struggling to get those conversations. They're out there talking about lead generation and doing different kinds of things on social media, sending emails, making cold calls, setting a bank of SDRs out to send emails and cold calls, and doing other things as well, going to trade shows and holding webinars to try to get the right people interested to having a conversation with their salesperson so that we can close more deals. Well, it just isn't that easy, unfortunately. If it was, we'd all be swimming in these conversations, and we're not. So today I have with me my good friend Caryn Kopp from The Door Openers, and she has been opening doors with her company for 26 years, or maybe a little longer, but she certainly is an expert in this. And I'm excited to have you on the show today, Caryn. Welcome.
Well, thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here and great to see you again, as always.
Yeah, it's good to see you. And I'm so grateful that we're going to talk about this important topic because everybody's wondering, how do we get more leads, right? How do we do lead generation? How do we get our salespeople on the phone with people who can buy? And so hopefully we'll have lots of great tips by the end of the show. But let's just start off. Let's have you introduce your company and tell our audience what you do.
Okay, well, it's wonderful to be here. We are Kopp Consulting, a KOPP Consulting, and we are best known for the door opener service. And that's where we hire senior level business developers who represent our clients, and we land the executive level prospect meetings for our clients so our clients can close more sales. That's what we do.
So you are opening those doors literally and getting the right people on the phone so the salespeople can have those conversations. Now, let's just set the stage a little bit. Of course, as always, I'm talking about a complex business to business sale. And we're talking about sales that have pretty good dollar stakes, right? They're not going to be a transactional, sale that's just a couple $1,000. We're talking about deals that are 50,000, 100,000, even up to millions of dollars in lifetime value of a customer.
Right. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what we do. People come to us to get in the C-suite or at the executive level, usually when the sale is big. So these are the difficult ones to get. Not that any of them are truly easy, but these are the difficult ones to get. It's very rare that someone will show up on my doorstep with something easy. So we usually need to figure out, what is that right recipe? How do we take this wide world of prospects and make them into a smaller group of prospects who are closer to a buy cycle? That's the first thing that we do for our clients, is figure out what are those filters that helps them shorten the sales cycle when we're assembling the prospect list. Then we can assemble the prospect list for them. We are known for sales messaging, not marketing messaging, which is the value prop and all that other stuff. We are known for, what is it that you can say to someone that will pique their interest, which doesn't happen according to a script. Life does not happen according to a script. So you have to say something that's of interest, and you can't say the same thing more than once. You have to be ready for the objections because they're coming, although sometimes we can remove the objection by changing some of the language up front. It'll get that objection off the table. And then we assign our door openers, our senior level people, to represent our clients as if they were a member of the client's team and open up communication, phone, email, well done, LinkedIn, all one-to-one. So our client has a constant effort going on at the top of the funnel, but it's professional, it's respectful. And when we tee up a meeting, which we do as a warm handoff, by the way, our door openers on the meeting with our client to do the warm handoff to make sure it goes well. But that prospect, who is the right prospect, is warm and interested and ready for the conversation.
Yeah. Wow. Right. Everybody wants more of that. So when we talk about lead generation, I think you and I were talking a little bit before the show, like, what does that even mean, right? What is lead generation? What are you trying to generate? And I think for every company, it's different. But again, for the complex sale where there's high dollar stakes involved, and you are trying to reach very senior level people at companies that are probably 100 to 1,000 times your size, right? So these are big, big companies that you're trying to break into. Some people call them whales, right? And you're trying to get to the very senior level people to have high level conversations about the complex problems that you can solve. But these people are not readily available. They're not easy to get to. A lot of times you can't get introduced to them because they're not within your network. Because, of course, getting an introduction is always great, but we just simply can't. So you've really discovered a long time ago, right, that this was going to take a very special and different type of effort than just simply sending emails and dialing the phone enough times to see if someone would answer. First of all, people don't even answer their phone very much anymore, so it's difficult. So you have to get their attention another way. So let's kind of go back to, how do you set this up? You're like with a company. You mentioned a little bit about it. You pick a very specific list. It's got to be these high dollar stakes, kinds of deals that you're going to focus in on. And we call, a lot of people are calling like account-based marketing, account-based engagement, whatever. But you very specifically picked these companies for a reason, that you felt they would be a good fit. And now you're trying to find out if they're ready to buy, if they're at that stage to buy what you're selling. So let's kind of start from the beginning and talk through exactly what the steps are to get to that point where you can get these people on the phone, Caryn.
Yeah. So I call it the 5 planks of door opening success. All 5 of these planks have to be in place and working, and we build this for our clients. There are a lot of blind spots in each one of these planks. The planks themselves are somewhat obvious, but it's the blind spots, which is what really trips people up. You talked about lead gen a few minutes ago, and I'm going to start there for a second. I'm going to move right into the 5 planks. But when people want to get in the door with the prospects, a lot of times people will call that lead gen. But lead gen means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. To some people, it's just a bunch of email marketing, which is 1,000 people get the same email. Sometimes it's email marketing and a little social. Sometimes it's email marketing, a little social, and a low-level SDR, somebody who may be a year or 2 out of college making these calls, which is really, as we said, not much of a match for an executive level prospect. And sometimes it's what we do. And what we do is we identify who needs to know our client. Everybody talks about, it's all about who you know. Well, not always. I think it's more about who needs to know you. And that person who needs to know you should feel urgency around having this meeting. They should willingly want to pay what you want to charge for your services or products, because not everybody out there is going to buy on value. Some people will only buy on price. They are wired that way. Well, what if you didn't put those people on your prospect list? If you want to sell on value, what if you only spoke to people who valued value? A lot of qualification happens in the list development time period, and that's a blind spot for most companies out there. They will put anybody on their list. They'll look at size of company, level of decision maker, industry niche, and geography, and stop there. For us, that's where it starts. Aside from all of that, which takes this wide world of prospects and makes it a little bit more narrow, how do we add filters and make it even more narrow than that? Who out there is going to find you to be the obvious solution? Once they know about you and that you exist, they wouldn't take a step without you part of their decision set. Even though if they have a need, they have a vendor or they're handling it internally, they're probably somewhat satisfied. They probably also know 3 other people who do what you do, and one of them might even be your cousin Vinny. So why should they meet you anyway? That's the job of sales messaging. So what do you say to these people that has them think, oh, I can't believe I didn't meet you 6 months ago. Where do we meet? When can we meet? I will knock 3 people off my calendar to make room for you. Is your sales messaging that compelling, that strong? Most of the time when clients come to us, they have lots of waste on their prospect list, people who don't deserve their time and attention. And then when it comes to sales messaging, they give us a little bit of a blank stare sometimes because they think that when they defined their value proposition, they were finished. But that's marketing. When it comes to sales, the spoken word, the email designed for one person to move that person from one place in his or her thinking to the next. Those 2 pieces have to be in place, and they're often not. When it comes to the objections, do you not just have some answers, do you have the right answers? And so we have different frameworks. I'll give you an example. One of the frameworks is called That's Exactly Why. That's exactly why we should meet. So anytime a prospect says they don't want to meet, they want to put it off, whatever they're saying to not accept that meeting, we say that's exactly why we should meet. You fill in the blank with a zinger sentence that you've thought about ahead of time, not on the fly, but ahead of time. And then that person will say, you're right. I didn't think about it that way. We do need to have this meeting. And then you say, how's Thursday at 10? So there's different frameworks for being able to not just prolong, but to go further in the path of dialogue that most people don't think about. But these things all need to be set up prior to the salesperson, or in our case, the door opener, ever making that call or writing an email.
Let me pause you because you said so many great things here. I want to just like pull a few of those out for our listeners, because I know every CEO here is going, yeah, I want these kinds of conversations. How am I going to get them? Right. So I think the preparation is absolutely paramount. You cannot do this without a tremendous amount of preparation. One, in list selection, right? It can't be everyone. It has to be those most likely to buy from you, right? And you have to understand those companies really well to understand if they're most likely to buy from you. And it is not about volume. It has to be about quality. So this list is a very high quality list of people who you have done the research on and really know that they can use a solution like yours, even if they've already got a solution or are doing it in-house as their solution. They may have a competitor, either one of those, right? But you've got to know that you've got something compelling enough to get them to have that conversation and be able to help educate them to see why your solution will take them farther faster, right? It's got to be better, easier,
right?
It's got to be more cost effective. It's got to be something, right, to compel them. And I truly believe that most companies do not have this kind of messaging and do not know how to speak that language to a prospect to get them to go, oh my gosh, yes, I need to meet with you. And okay, let's say even if they did, then handling those objections like you're talking about is so important as well, and being prepared. You cannot handle those objections if you are not prepared and practiced at it, because the nerves kick in and you don't say the right thing. So these people have to be very well trained. So we prepare, we practice, everybody's ready to go, and then we can start making the calls. So thank you for all of that, because it's so important. And preparing again for these objections, like you're saying, so they can roll right into it. All right, so let's talk about these 5 planks.
Yep. So the first one, as we said, is the right target. The second one is the right message. Notice the word right in front of every single one of these planks. That's a really important term when it comes to the 5 planks, that every single one of them has to be right. It's not just about the target, it's the right target. It's not just about the message, but it's the right message. What is going to land for someone? Like, for example, it goes right down to a word. If you change the word, it could change the outcome. We'll give you an example of boutique. There's a lot of companies that like to say they are a boutique, fill in the blank, boutique agency, boutique whatever. But that might be a really compelling word to you, but you don't matter in this equation. The only thing that matters in this equation is the prospect, and how is that word going to land for that person. If that word lands as a disconnect or as a negative, you're sunk. You're not going to get a chance to change that person's impression based on what you said. So once you figure out your message, you need to take a look at every single word that you're saying, and is it working hard for you? You don't want to say to somebody, I could show you how this works. Change one word. I can prove how this works. This is an intensity difference. So while it seems like, especially with the CEOs, and I feel you, because we operate at 30,000 feet, what I'm talking about is at 1,000 feet. But if you can change what's happening at 1,000 feet, you don't have 30,000 foot problems. So this is really important. And the language piece of it is in a blind spot. I have never found, when I started this company 26 years ago, I tried many different things in terms of creating sales messaging. It was my firm opinion at that time that anybody I hired who was a senior level business developer would be able to figure out what the right language was based on what the prospects might find compelling. And I was wrong about that. So I ended up splitting those roles. We have door openers and we have messaging strategists. I tried messaging strategists who came from advertising. They couldn't write this kind of messaging because they had never worked a prospect list before. They had not made these calls before. They couldn't possibly know what would work and what didn't work. So what we ended up doing was taking certain door openers who wanted to do this job, not many of them did, who possessed these kinds of skills, and we made them our strategists. And that is the business model as it stands today and has been this way. But companies try, usually people from their marketing departments, to write scripts when it comes to getting these doors open. But those people are unfortunately ill-equipped to be able to write this kind of messaging because they've not done this job before. They've not faced these objections before. Sometimes people will give us their playbook when they hire us to do the door opening for them, and we'll take a look at it and we'll know that those answers for objections, which is the third plank, the right answers for objection, will never answer the actual objection. So we need to create all of that before plank 4, which is the right door opener doing the work. This is another blind spot out there. Many companies feel that the same person should open the door as close the sale. And I'm going to submit to everybody to think about it a little differently. You can have a senior level person opening the door and doing a warm handoff like we do to a senior level business developer who's great at being on the meeting and then getting the sale over to the close, while the person doing the door opening is constantly feeding new and right opportunities into the top of the funnel. These are different people. When we go to hire our people to work here, they have to have a minimum of 10 years experience in business development, with heavy emphasis on getting the doors open with people they don't know at the executive level, and they love this part of sales. Most salespeople would rather put a stick in their eye than do this part of sales. I'm not kidding. If you don't like this part of sales and you have to do it, it is torture. It's torture.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I believe that a lot of sellers think they can do it, and they can't, and they tire out very quickly and easily. But it's also because we didn't have the first two things, the right target and the right message. And you are definitely going to wear salespeople out cold calling on the wrong list, right? That will wear them out very, very quickly. The right list with the right message. Let me make sure. So we've got a couple of the planks. The first one is the right target. The second one is the right message. The third one, I think I missed. What's the third one?
The right answers for objections.
The right answers for objections. And the fourth one is you have to have the right door opener, the right person. So they have to be experienced, understand the person they're calling at the level of the person they're calling so that they can have that kind of conversation. I love that. Okay.
I'm going to throw one thing in there too, Alice. It's experience plus DNA. We're hiring experience plus DNA. If you have just experience, it may not be the right experience. I know people who like to hire from the market leader and they put them in a company that's a challenger company, and this person's a fish out of water because they were handed these relationships and they've never actually done this part of the job. So it's experience plus DNA. We can help a sales team to be better than they are at getting these doors open, but I can't make them love this.
Right. Right. Yeah. And that is so, so true. Okay. What is plank 5?
Plank 5 is the right execution. Is it a phone call? Is it an email? What do you say on the first try, second try, third try?
Is it a combination of those things, right?
Oh, it's definitely a combination. Email alone doesn't do it. Phone alone doesn't do it. Phone and email in combination with sprinkled in, well done, one-to-one LinkedIn, befriending the assistant. If the executive has an assistant, instead of just bypassing that person could be your best friend. There's all of these different things that work together, but you want to build on the relationship over time. Even if you've not spoken to someone, you are still building on the relationship. If you just send a bunch of emails out, that's one-way communication. But if you're calling them, now you're human and they are human too. They're not going to call you back on the first try. They're not going to call you back on the second try. You have to reach out respectfully and say something of value. What's different now about the way this used to be, let's say 5 years ago, 10 years ago, is that now anything somebody needs to know about almost anything is going to be online. They can get it on their phones, they can get it on their computers. So they don't need a salesperson for that. What they need is a salesperson who can help them understand how this applies to them and can make their life better. And if you can figure out what that is, which should be in the messaging, if you can figure out what that is and articulate that in the voicemail, yes, leave one. A lot of people don't. Leave one. Be ready for the live dialogue. When someone answers the phone, you can't stuff a 6-sentence voicemail into live dialogue. It doesn't work. It's 2 sentences and a question to springboard into that dialogue, and you better be ready for it because it's all over in less than a minute and you don't get another chance. That's what I say to our people. It's all over in less than a minute. You don't get another chance. So no pressure. But it's really important that people are prepared for those conversations and that they can weave to the left and weave to the right in the middle of this conversation. It's not like having a meeting. That's a different cadence. This is a different kind of work. So it requires somebody who's not distracted from a workflow perspective by answering customer phone calls or being further in the sales process, thinking through a proposal. That's different workflow. This is heads down. You're not answering your phone. You're not looking at your text. It's heads down and you're in the moment with the prospect. Not easy to do when you have people walking in and out of your office. You really need to be on your own to get this done. The other part of right execution, aside from what do you say, 3rd time, 5th time, 20th time, and I have some statistics on that as well from our data, but it is how much time weekly are you spending just pursuing this group of prospects? and not mixing in all sorts of non-revenue generating activities. If companies want more revenue, they need to spend more time generating revenue, more time on revenue generating activities than they do. And that's one of the reasons why it's really helpful to have us to do the door opening for them so that their great closers can spend time nurturing those prospects that are in process and getting those deals closed while we're constantly mining the top of the funnel.
Yeah. A
5
couple of
clicks.
important things that you've mentioned, and I'm going to reiterate, is just this is a different kind of work. This is not the person who digs into the problem and talks about how the solution fits and moves to the next step and helps guide the sale to the close. This is not that person. It's a different kind of work. It's a different kind of conversation. Right. And it's highly specialized. And this messaging, which is this right messaging, which is in plank 2, is so important. And that includes, as you mentioned, anything you're going to send on LinkedIn, anything you're going to send through email, what you're going to say, those first 2 sentences and the question. And it includes the voicemail. And I see so many companies missing on this. They have people calling, they don't leave a voicemail. Why? If you leave a voicemail, you have at least some % chance that someone will call you back, but you certainly have a bigger chance that they're going to hear your enthusiasm and hear a human and hear something interesting. It's like it can be a little mini commercial for you. They're getting to know you, right? If you leave no voicemail, you have 0 chance of anything. So this voicemail has to be very well thought out, and the same track of messaging you're using that will be very important to this person you are calling, which is not the same for everyone you're calling, and very specific to them. So this gives you another opportunity to build the relationship. Now, the other piece of this that I want everybody to hear loud and clear is it's a long game. This is not dial 10 times, get somebody on the phone, flip them over to a sales rep and, try to sell them something and get off the phone or maybe follow through the sales process, right? It's a long game, but it's worth it because these are the highest dollar stakes deals you're going to do, right? These are the whales you want to catch and keep forever. These are companies that you want to be in business with, that will appreciate you, that give you some name recognition, they have some prestige, and they're paying high dollars. So it's really important to get this right. So let's talk about that long game and some of those stats, because you're saying, oh my gosh, I heard you say 20. I have to reach out 20 times to get someone. Well, you're talking about a senior executive who's really busy, who probably doesn't answer their phone, right? They're a CEO, they're a C-level, they're a VP level, they're at a large company, they have a lot going on. So let's talk about what it takes to build that relationship through email, voicemail, LinkedIn, etc. Maybe even mailing something to them. What does it take? How long does it take? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the better your prospect is, the less time it takes. And not just the prospect list, but also the messaging, the less time it takes. Because if you can pique the interest of this person, not just by saying, here's what we do, but here's why it matters to you, to the individual, it will shorten the amount of time it actually takes to reach them. Like, for example, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you might be able to say, we can save your company 10%. And that might have been meaningful back then. Now it's not meaningful at all. People, the prospects, they don't really care so much about their companies. They care about themselves. So one way that you can flip that and talk about it, it's not just about the savings, but what does the savings accomplish? It frees up budget. It frees up budget so this executive that you're talking to can now do 1 or 2 more initiatives that are really important to them that they wouldn't be able to do otherwise. Now that's compelling for this day and age. That's really compelling. But you need to say that once. You'll need to write an email. The next week, you may need to reach back out again, but you can't say the same thing. So one of the things we do with our messaging is not just voicemail, email, vignettes, and answers for objections, but we create a series of what we call talking points for as time goes on language. That's what we call it, as time goes on. Because what are the themes that you're going to talk about as time goes on? Now, when the door opener goes live, and it's after they pass a role play, because we do not practice on our clients' prospects. So they get the green light that they're ready to go. They've internalized this messaging. They don't just call. They'll call up a prospect in CRM, and then they're going to research. They're going to research about that prospect in particular and further personalize this messaging. Because the more personalized it can be without creating a disconnect, the shorter amount of time it's going to take to get that person to respond to you. And so responses can come in a variety of different ways. They don't often call back, but they will hear your voice, they'll hear your name. Now they're putting two and two together. This is not a beg for a meeting situation. Please avoid saying, please, 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 please. I promise I won't waste your time. It'll only take us 10 minutes. No, the prospect should want this meeting. So even if it takes us 2 or 3 more times of leaving voicemails, writing emails before we reach that prospect, that's better, because by the time you reach them, they know a little bit more about how you and your products and services can help them to just live a better life. That's all they want. They want their lives to be easier. And if they can understand that, then when they agree to the meeting, they are warm and interested. It's rare that
they want to
somebody
talk. They want to listen. Right.
Yes, they show up warm and interested. One of my clients did a testimonial and said the prospects are half sold because they already know what they're going to be talking about. Sometimes people come to us after maybe using a low-level appointment setting firm or having their internal people do it, and they're having a lot of cancellations and no-shows, and we don't have that. In our data, there's not a lot of that, because the prospects know what this is about, they're interested, and they come ready to hear.
Okay, so on average, when we put this all together, right, on average, where are people, the prospects, saying, yes, I want to talk to you? Couple of emails and a couple of LinkedIns, 3 voicemails and 2 LinkedIns. I mean, what are the stats telling us, like, about how long does it take to warm them up before they go, oh gosh, I should have a conversation with you?
Okay, well, I'm glad you asked that, because we have been studying a data set of 500 meetings from last year. And here's what we know. It takes on average 8 touch points to get a disposition. So some people you will reach sooner than that, and some people it's going to take longer than that. But if you're giving up before you hit 8, I can promise you, you are warming up your prospects for the competitors to come in and eat your lunch. I would rather see you further refine your prospect list and do a really good job with a smaller list of prospects than go really wide and then just forget about them. Prospects don't like that. They want to feel that you really care about them, so that you're going to hang in there until they're ready. So on average, it's 8. We've also taken a look at even though we're reaching out by phone, email, well done LinkedIn, talking to the assistants, what is the last touch point before a meeting? And what I found fascinating is that 46% of the time, the last touch point before a meeting was a phone call. So that means for those of your listeners out there who aren't making phone calls, they're not getting a bunch of these meetings that they should be getting because they didn't add phone in. That's a blind spot. And many sellers hide behind email, and they won't use phone too, even though you and I are talking about that as if everybody's using it. Most sellers prefer just to send an email and then think that somebody isn't interested. Not true. Until they tell you they're not interested, it's not that they're not interested. It's that you just haven't interested them enough so that they're going to engage with you. Time to keep trying.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more. And these SDR teams that are just using email and LinkedIn, they're really missing it, right? They are really
Oh,
missing it.
yeah.
They have got to get those phone calls in. People need to hear that you're a human, you have a voice, you have something interesting for them, right? They can hear that on the voicemail. And I think that is just a major piece of this. But you're saying 8 tries, right? And both of us know that the way that
Average.
average, right?
On
8 or
average,
more, right?
right.
It could be more,
Yeah.
occasionally
Oh,
could be
yeah,
less, right? But
absolutely.
I'm gonna
Mhm.
guess that it's usually 6 to 8, because and that's not real new news, because this has been tracked in the past and we've noticed that. But I would say most salespeople attack a list so haphazardly, right? They're not putting the
Right.
rigor into it. You know, today I'm going to email, tomorrow I'm going to LinkedIn, I'm going to dial 3 times tomorrow, once in the morning, once midday, once in the afternoon. If I don't reach them on the first on the last try of the day, I'm going to leave that voicemail. Then I'm going to start the next day and do these things and really work a list. And that's why it doesn't work with volume. You can't possibly do it when you're trying to call
Right.
thousands, right? You can do it when you've got maybe 3 or 4 companies and 3 to 5 key people at each of those companies that you're really going to work to reach in that, set period of time. And then you can work on another list, but it just doesn't work with volume. And it's being proven over and over again, right? We're having to send thousands of emails and make thousands and hundreds of thousands of calls to reach anyone. And it just isn't proving out. And companies are not getting those conversations their salespeople need.
Well, that's right. And so let's talk about that time block, because that's really important. Most salespeople don't block time to make these calls. So that's why part of right execution is the amount of time that you're spending with heads down on this group of prospects. But I'll share with you what we do with our door openers. We separate the list building from the outreach and the list hygiene from the outreach. So by the time that is loaded into our CRM, it's not only been verified that the person who is in the title that we're pursuing is actually still in that role. Because otherwise, could you imagine coming up with this great prospect, and now the door opener is going to be doing research on this human, thinking about how to further personalize the message to really make an impact, only to find out that the phone number doesn't work, or they've moved on, or they died, right? Lists have been created from a long time ago. So all of that is scrubbed by our research department. It doesn't matter that we might be getting our information from one of these list resources either. We are verifying against LinkedIn, they're still in the position. We are verifying the email addresses. And then we have our research team actually call without talking to anybody and verify working phone numbers. All of that is done before it's loaded in our CRM, because I don't want our door openers, who are really senior level people, spending any of their time looking up an email address. It's, first of all, terrible use of their time. But second of all, it breaks the workflow. You want them to have the best hygiene when it comes to list, so that nothing is slowing them down from only that which they could do, which is reach a prospect, have a short conversation, and get that meeting. The more we can make it that way for them, the more meetings we can get. But most sellers, most companies are not set up this way. So they give the seller a list that's not clean, not verified, could be from years ago. I would say one of the sales effectiveness metrics that I've been talking about lately is what percent of prospects on the list are the right prospects. That percentage is often very low when clients come to us. That's got to be 99.9% of prospects on the list deserve to be there with the exact right information. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. There's no time to waste when it comes to this.
Yeah, no time to waste. Absolutely. I think, most companies are not set up to do most of what we've talked about. And
Yeah.
so they're thinking, yeah, this sounds great, but what can I do with, with the team that I have in the position that I'm in right now to start to move the needle? So I just want to review really quickly the planks and then have you just give them a couple of, hey, start here, right? So remembering that the right target. So I do think that's something everyone can do is clean their list a little bit better and really think about who their targets are and if they are the right targets. The right message, the right answers to the objections, right? You're ready to handle those objections. The right person, the right door opener calling, right? And they have to have experience and DNA. They got to love it. They got to really want to do this kind of work. And then the right execution, which takes time. And we have to be patient and continue messaging, over time to get these people interested. So all of that to say to you, where can we start right now today if we just want to make a couple of improvements?
Well, the easiest way to make the improvement is to call us and have us do this for you, because that's the easiest way. We will set this up properly. We'll test it for you. And then you can later bring it internally and train your people to do what we have found to be the right process. But if that is not for you and you need to get yourself to the next level, is to follow those 5 planks. They are in order for a reason. If you can fix the right target, what kinds of prospects do you want more of? It's not just any prospect who can buy from you, but certain ones. And you can verify that 99.9% of prospects that you are working currently deserve your time and attention. Everything else in sales becomes a lot easier. Like even companies that have gotten in the door with certain prospects and they're stuck in the sales cycle and you just can't get them over the finish line. Most of the time, the offender was the fact that they never were the right prospect to begin with. So if you had to start anywhere, it would be there. If you're not calling the right people, not contacting the right people, everything else is useless.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I cannot agree more. I cannot believe how fast this time flew by. And so we are at the top of the hour and we need to wrap up. But I thank you so much for sharing all of that. And let's let people know where they can find you. Of course, on LinkedIn, if you want to connect with Caryn, you have to tell her that you heard her here on this show so that she will accept your request. And then also, they can find you on your website, which is Kopp Consulting. And that's KOPP.
ConsultingUSA.com, KoppConsultingUSA.com. You can find us there. There's all sorts of tips and ideas on the blog. You can go there. I've done some audios. You can find them there on the website as well. If you want to bring your team up on your own, if you'd like to know how door opening could apply in your situation, reach out. Happy to share that with you. And I really appreciate you having me on your show.
It's been great. And I'm sure we will be talking again soon. Thanks, Caryn.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.